Well, why don't we go ahead, Howard, and jump in? I know we just have a couple of people live. I know a lot of people were interested, but wanted the recording. I know we've got some friends in the UK signed up, so it's a little bit late for them. But so thank
All right.
you for joining us. My name's Carrie Gillum, and I work here with Howard at Career Oyster. I have a former client, and Howard helped me secure a couple of the greatest jobs I ever had. So I'm a huge fan and excited to be working with him here. Howard, if you guys don't know, as Howard was just giving you a little bit of his background, former recruiter, former salesperson, and also has a few engineering degrees. And that combination of skills and experiences has led him to build this system really that helps people to get great jobs, right? Not just a job, but get the best job that they can. And Howard has a unique approach, his own philosophy, a unique approach to both resumes as well as interviewing. And as I said, personally taught me how to take control of that interview and get some of the best jobs I ever had. So with that, Howard, I will hand it over to you. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to use the chat. And hopefully this is a good 45 minutes for everybody.
Well, thank you, Carrie. Appreciate it. Yeah, these are fun to do, and we're not going to. This is going to be a session where we talk a little bit more about proactive career management and strategies, especially for the 21st century, where a lot of changes are happening quickly and fast, and people need to be ready. And so we're going to give some ideas that I've taught a long time. I've done some of these things since probably 2000, and then I've done a couple of these ideas. It's just the way I approach sales, and I've taught a lot of recruiters how to do this, and we could double or triple their odds of winning in interviews and et cetera. So we'll go through a couple ideas here of what we do, and I think you'll relate to it pretty quickly, Bill, because you're in sales. I don't know what Eugene does, but if he's in sales, he'll recognize it. But it applies to all careers. So let me start it. We'll go from there. We'll have a Q&A session at the back, and we will answer some questions that were submitted to us. So there'll be, I think, Carrie, did you say there's 6 or 7 of them that we had for sure?
Yes.
And we'll answer those.
Got a list of questions up here that were submitted.
Yeah, and so that'll give them some ideas on specific situations they were dealing with. And then, of course, anybody that wants to jump and get a free session, there'll be a link that they can get, and they can have a free session to review their questions or their background or their concerns and what they're doing. I'll be glad to talk to them, give them some ideas, and perhaps they would be interested in some of our products. All right, so here we go. So first of all, we're going to talk about sales and marketing professionals today. And we're going to be one of the few coaches you can talk to that we have niche products for our different disciplines out there. So we did one 2 weeks ago for IT people, and we have about 10 niches that we work the careers for, and we have materials and things that support that to allow them to understand themselves and be able to proactively market themselves to jobs and do this in the future. In the past, we didn't have to do as much proactive. It kind of went pretty well through the 90s, and I've been in recruiting since 1980, and it went through. It was a little bit different back then, but with AI coming and the speed of today's market, a lot of people are going to have to react quickly and make changes, et cetera. So here's our little agenda for today. Number one, we're going to talk about some sales and marketing trends. And I got those from a third party, which is HubSpot. They do a lot of research, et cetera. Some of those things I would agree with, some I don't, but most of them I did, and we'll talk about them. Then we're going to talk about understanding the PLC and the CLC. I'm sure you're not sure what that is, but it really means product life cycle. And CLC is a career life cycle. And these are the old MBA curves, but they're very important in how you go about job search and deciding which jobs to take and which jobs to target. So we'll talk about that with a couple of examples. We're going to identify the different sales roles, and I'm going to do something that may be below you, Bill. I think I saw you as a regional sales manager. It might be closer to the people that are entering the field or whatever, but for the recording purposes, we're going to cover a couple other things there. And anything you can ask questions later if there's something specific. The next one we're saying to everyone in job search from the 21st century now, you need to proactively manage your career in a disciplined manner to always be ready for the marketplace shifts that occur, as well as to be ready to immediately explore an opportunity or even make a change if you have to, and be ready to go. Most people are not. Their resumes are not ready, and they're certainly not prepared for interview. So we're also going to show that defining your personal goals occurs at every job change, and it actually changes as you go through a career life cycle. We'll go through that. We will identify how opportunities may be different based on your values for each stage of career life. I can certainly tell you all the cycles because I'm in the fourth quarter, and every one of your different periods of time, you had different goals and different things you wanted to do. Understanding your marketability is very important so that you can target positions that will increase your marketability and will satisfy your personal goals. And we'll give you a couple of strategies and tips for this proactive career management to make it realistic and something that is actually a process and a methodology. It's a methodology that I've created and used, and especially salespeople will love it. And finally, we'll take Q&A, questions and answers at the end. All right, number one, here's some trends that we'll quickly go through. And most sales pros know this, know that the business always gets harder. Ever since I've been in sales, they double your quota, have your commissions, and you know that you have to do more work every year as markets mature. So we always know it gets harder, but the question is why? And we'll talk about that in a second. Sales reps only spend 2 hours a day on average. This is from HubSpot, actually selling. So the question is, how do you get them more time? And that's by using tools such as AI, et cetera, where you can minimize and automate some of the daily processes. But the real problem with it has been that the tools like Salesforce and them require so much data entry in order for them to do the analytics, et cetera, and also to do other kinds of research and figure out strategies that takes a lot of time from the salesperson, okay? And so that's a problem that is increasing. So the more we can automate that process and the more you can automate parts of it, like research and administrative things, and et cetera, the more sales time that could be open to the reps. 45% of the sales reps, basically, I could be one of them too, are overwhelmed by tech tools. I'm reasonably comfortable, but there's a lot of things you have to do, especially if you're a little bit of a practice manager or someone that's running a remote desk, et cetera. And in 2023, the average sales rate was 21%, which is 1 out of 5. I don't know if that's really horrible, but it seems to be pretty normal. I don't know if it was higher. When you first start the market, your sales rate can be higher. But when you really add up the accounts, that's not the end of the world. 52% say the B2B customers are using self-service tools more. So what does that imply? That implies that if they use the self-service tools, I don't need the salesperson. Or I can end up doing those things myself. For example, the research. For example, maybe I can even go out and find some webinars or something on interviewing or on product knowledge or on courses or these certifications they can get. And so the sales professional is, at least from the relationship point of view of being out there, is getting a little less value at the lower end of the knowledge base and has to look for other ways to contribute to justify cost per sales. 82% of sales pros, I'm one of them, a lot of times say building relationships is still a priority and it's the most fun part of the job. So you still want to do that. And that's really, we will never replace salespeople, but the types of roles that the salespeople will have now, as well as what they're going to have in the future, are definitely changing. And the roles I used to have as a primary sales relationship builder that educated the clients, that role is gone except for a couple markets: high price products, complex and customized solutions, maybe high channels and affiliate type relationships or big box relationships. It's no longer around for computers. Everybody can buy those things pretty much online. And the pre-sales engineer comes into play a lot to handle technical things. There is a plus, though, for sales careers right now that I like. And everybody, I know my son and my brothers, and they're all working from home in a hybrid model. And the reality is it opens up the number of jobs you can apply to. It opens up the number of industries and things you can get to. And so your opportunities are really better. I had 4 years actually with an AI product in you won't believe this, 1992, an AI applicant tracking system. I took a Southeast rep in between my management jobs, and I was running a recruiting company. And it was a very interesting that I could work myself, had a great job, traveled to Southeast, and I was very successful. Sold quite a few of them. and nobody had that product in the Southeast when I started. So the whole point of this is that sales and marketing expertise needs to be upgraded for more sales, less cost, more sales activity, and faster speed. And the indication of that is when you see that we have a lot more inside sales, business development people, marketing people, automation and campaigns, et cetera, that are trying to make the front end of the process, which is the volume part, go quicker and faster. Sales managers, 96% of the customers that you're going out to, and that I even go out to, they try to do their research on their own before they talk to a sales rep. And they've already narrowed down the field, and they already have their criteria starting to be put together. It makes it a little difficult at that point to approach them and change it. Most of them may not even talk to the rep about that particular area. And sales manager says that on the other side, I got to push that we're trying to reduce costs, keep things down, make sure we have full funnels, activity levels up, et cetera. And they're not taking risk if we have to try a new product of some kind or a new approach to something. Budgets are being scrutinized, reduced cost per sale. Sales process takes too long. This is a very interesting one to me. And I want to bring this up a couple times in this webinar. There are 5 decision makers. Now, I've dealt with 4 or 5 decision makers several times in my career, but 5 decision makers per sale, and each one has something to say, which slows down the sales process. Perhaps you experienced that. And also, 72% of a company's revenue comes from existing accounts, with 28% from new accounts. Now, what that means also is that if you're going to make your investment in talent, careers, the VP of marketing or VP of sales is going to invest in people that can handle large accounts, complex accounts, accounts with ongoing revenue, accounts that might be running through channels as value-added resellers, et cetera. So you're going to see a lot of investment here, and this thing's going to be pushed over to more the entry level and some of the early career people of inside sales and sales development to work the top of the funnel. The one thing that's a plus on AI for the sales managers, I shouldn't say the one thing, but is that it will be able to do a lot of their research and their comparisons and get data and stats very readily with AI. And that will help them make decisions faster for the tactics of monthly sales. So that's one big advantage that should be coming. 61% of the sales reps and managers already are on a hybrid team model. The hybrid team model has some interesting career implications. You have to be able to work independently, of course, and manage your activity, et cetera. And there's not quite some of the same, let's say, chemistry or rapport. So you have to have some systems or some ways of communicating back and forth. But it also gives the sales reps an opportunity to get jobs all around the country and not have to move or go to an expensive area to live. So the job market can expand, and if you can learn to be disciplined in that, a lot of professional salespeople would like that. Okay, so sales and marketing expertise, in summary, from these couple points that I grabbed, sales and marketing expertise needs to be upgraded for more sales activity and a faster cycle, and that's what's going to happen. The net of that is we are living in, and have been for a little while, but it's going to increase in exponential times. Hence, the need to be able to react faster, et cetera. Many people that have called or get calls from recruiters, and when I called them, they didn't have a resume ready. They didn't know how to interview properly. The opportunity just went by them. And it wasn't up to date. They weren't ready to go, et cetera. In today's world, that's will cost you a lot. Every job right now, because of LinkedIn and the other things, has hundreds of people applying. And if you get a chance to get in on an interview, someone wants to talk to you and you can get to that interview, you need to be able to take it, and you should be ready at all times. I can't tell you how many of my clients complain all the time that they're not getting enough interviews. But if they had, some of them don't have resumes ready, or they're just getting them ready and they didn't have them, so they couldn't even take advantage of it. So the key is proactive management. So let's talk about this first concept that we brought up, the PLC, product lifecycle. It's the MBA product life cycle. And actually, I'm sorry, I labeled it here a little bit wrong. But every product life cycle starts from a development stage, a growth stage, then it matures and it declines. Every product goes through this. And salespeople, where the margins are the best, are usually in this area if you're an experienced salesperson. Sometimes you can have a great territory or a channel and you make money here. You can make money in each one. But as everybody knows, as it gets more mature, the cost per sale has to go down. And as it goes down, you either have to sell a lot more, or you have to sell bigger accounts, or you have to do something to make the same amount of money. And certain industries have witnessed that. So products go through this life cycle. Number two, industry goes through this life cycle. Every industry will go through this cycle, and sometimes they reinvent themselves. Sometimes they get acquired. Sometimes they are combined, and sometimes they go out of business. So you have to look at a job and an opportunity from the point of view, not just of what you want, not just of what that particular situation is. What is the products doing in the next 4 to 5 years, if you can, minimum? You can't look even that far, but. And secondly, what's the industry looking at, and try to make decisions based on the opportunity. Not only that, every company has a product life cycle, right? The company goes through cycles. While some are rising, some are not rising. Some don't have financials to survive, etc. So yeah, that's another element to consider. Unconsciously, you might be considering some of these, but you really should formally think about when you target your job search or you target opportunities. You should consider some of these things. Technology is another thing. With AI, I can tell you just from all the iterations that I've gone through in the computer industry from the very beginnings, almost timesharing even, it will dramatically change the jobs and the opportunities. And there's no longer one single career. You might have to make changes in technologies, or you might have to make changes in a product, etc. Another area that is company size. Companies go through this, but company size has a lot to do with their finances. And the finances of whether they have enough staying power, right, to stay in the process. Finally, another one would be the positions and jobs that are available. You can go out to LinkedIn or whatever, and you can usually get a little assessment of what opportunities are available in sales. And you can say, okay, this is a hot market right now, but at some point the sun will set on that particular market, and the question is how long would it last when you can make some decent money, especially if it takes you 6 months to a year to warm up and get into the game. And then if all of a sudden you run into a problem where there's a clearing of the market, that creates a problem. Right now, sales skills are they can be transferable, but you got to have some of these to be in your camp in order to have that marketability. And finally, candidate availability is one thing. If you look out on LinkedIn, and every job is just flooded with candidates. And so everyone complains to me they can't even get seen, etc. So you really have to change your tactics and strategy to survive if you're in that kind of a position. Secondly, when you have so many candidates available, you can bet the compensation drops. So now a lot of people will say, well, I used to make this and I want to make that again. Well, you may not be able to do that. You may have to step back, etc., unless you target a higher paying job, do a transition, or go to somewhere else where you're on the growth curve better. Okay. Now, global competition, that's been around for quite a while, but most of the jobs in sales that we're talking about are usually in the U.S. and there are jobs, but they are changing levels, and they are changing responsibilities, and you're going to see increasing trends in that area. So the question you ask yourself: where am I in my career, and in what opportunities would be good for my marketability going forward? Now, I took 2 examples here. One example is this is just an early career person. And this early career person down back in their career, they really, at this point in time, they really want to develop skills. And their whole goal is to go maybe with a large company with structure and training and a lot of mentors, etc., where they can go in and learn how to be in sales. Going with a marquee company or even a company that's a known vendor is a good idea. Okay. And so that's what an early person will do in the A period, just to get some development, get some experience, bang their head a little bit and do some of the early jobs, which they could be on the front end of prospecting, et cetera. And then you go into the mid-career, which is where you get into growth and you can carry a territory where you have clients or et cetera. And you make you're building your skills and you're making money, but that's increasing your marketability. And that's this part of the curve. And then you have senior level people where I call the senior circuit or the circuit from 35 to 55 is kind of the return on investment cycle. This is this area here up to here where you try to maximize your earnings, maximize your career positions, maximize, or maybe you get some equity, maybe you also do some balance of life, but you have formed a foundation that makes you marketable, and it'll hold for a little while. It's holding less and less as this product life cycle shrinks inward, right? It occurs faster. And but you're at that point, you have family issues and other things that you're trying to support and worry about in balance with your job. And that's what happens here. Some people get to the executive level. Some people decide they're going to go entrepreneurial. It's a great idea if you're going to do entrepreneurial to be at least up here so you have some experience and you learned on someone else's time. And then finally, you come to the senior level, past 55, the senior circuit, I call it. And in that circuit, you're looking more to give back. You're looking more to enjoy your job. You're looking more sometimes to do a passion play, which is why I still do this. This is a passion play for me. Now, this is an example of an early career, and here's the kinds of things they would look for. I'm not going to go through every one of them, but they're trying to form a 5-year baseline of skills, of experience dealing with products, with companies, of kind of sale, making quotas, etc. And they trade off. If I have to travel, that's fine. If I have to give up some dollars, that's good. If I have to, maybe work a tough territory or location or whatever, that's fine. But this is the time to do a lot of that because you need to build skills. And the whole career strategy at this point in a career is skills equals marketability. Marketability generates options. Marketability will generate increased dollars, and it will increase your security because your security is never in a company. It's in your skills. Okay. So this is the strategy of the early part of someone's career life cycle. All right. Next one, here's the opposite end. And this is someone that might have 30 years of background and they're toward the maturity section or the stability section. And these people at this point, they're probably not climbing the ladder further unless they're already in the executive office and executive suite. And at this point, they're really trying to continue in their career. They want to do something they enjoy. They want to be able to pay the bills and finish up colleges or whatever. Sometimes they even come to me and they want to go back to the future. In other words, I want to take instead of a sales management job, I really just want to go run a territory and run a large accounts or run a channel, et cetera. And so they need a transitional type strategy with a resume and interviewing to be able to step back. Some come to me and say, I just want a balance of life. I want to sell something I'm comfortable with. Money is important, but not critical. I don't want to travel. I want to make sure I'm home, make sure I can help see all the kids and help with the sports and other activities that they're involved in. Okay. Sometimes you just have at this point, a personal passion, et cetera. This is the time when you do that. Sometimes it can happen in this growth and maturity stage. You can make some transitions in here to get some balance, especially in maturity. But it definitely is a common thing of the I call them the senior circuit, being the president of it. And so at this level, we usually look for something that's fun, something that we passion, and we want to define a role that we like and that fits our personal values. So from that, you can see that everybody has a different set of goals and a different set of values at these parts of the cycle. But most people, they apply to jobs and then they don't really look at all the elements of these that come into play over time. And they get surprised later by a company that goes out of business or something else happens. Or they're on a track that doesn't take them to something they like and they haven't thought it through. Instead, they took a job that came up and it looked okay at the time, but it didn't work out. So in today's world, if you get ahead of the curve before you have a tight time frame, you can proactively identify good target markets. Doesn't mean you won't investigate outliers. I've done that my whole life. But you can now make an informed decision based on your values and what you're trying to do at that stage of your life. So this is the standard three tiers of every department, every company out there. And we want to look at roles too, right? So in the roles of the sales thing, we're just going to roll through them here. You had the first initial roles, early career, and they're typically inside sales, account servicing, growth, etc. Role 2 after that comes up into new account sales, or maybe they're inside sales. They call these business sales development. Sometimes you can get moved outside, which is a little bit higher in the pecking order. And in that system, you're starting to call on accounts and doing prospecting. I've done plenty of that. And, and that's a good thing to do, to learn and to go out and be able to do that. An interesting evolution is of the pre-sales engineer. When I was selling, they used to support me and provide the technical background. In today's world, since the sales rep doesn't have quite, the outside sales rep doesn't get as many calls or as much at a time to influence the account in terms of their requirements, et cetera. They do a lot of their research on their own. They call this person to give them the technical advice, et cetera. So it's actually a pretty good career. It's a combination of sales and technical support, typically for a lot of different products. Outside of that, I don't know how it's used too much in consumer products and other things, but it's definitely in any technology. Okay, customer success manager is really a derivation of the account manager, but it's really important today because of the way technology products are priced, right? They're based on usage and or number of users. You need someone in there to develop that and get departments to engage and get involved with your software. It has to do with the CapEx decline. Next thing is account manager and senior account manager. Now, if you're a more senior person and you still want to stay independent, this is a good role. And it could be in several criteria where you can run channels, you can run partners, you can run large accounts, you can run national accounts, you can run things that are brand new, but they're expensive. Then you can make good money in these roles, but it'll only last for a period of time because everything eventually gets commoditized. It goes from a genius start, and then it goes into a process, and et cetera. And then finally, your value in the cycle goes out, and the users can actually buy things somewhat on their own. Okay, sales channel and partner man. These are good fields for individual contributors, and the key would be to look for complex products, high-priced products, large networks of locations, et cetera. Sales operations, this is for larger companies. There are people that may not want to go out and sell, but they're really good at process. Their job is to grease the skids so that the sales machine runs properly and be able to make things effective, fluid, try to minimize the downtime on sales. And sales and marketing management is obvious from that. They work together hand in hand, marketing being slightly different. And then if you're a C-level executive, that's a few people get there, but that's usually you run either sales or marketing. Sometimes you can run both. General manager is more like someone in a smaller company where you would run all the operations and sales and marketing, et cetera. In larger companies, it's pretty split until it gets to be VP level. All right, so sales can pay very well as an individual contributor for those who prefer to control their time and make money. But the key is to pick the right opportunities and hope they last a period of time. Keep your eye on the changes so that you can use that background and those contacts in your next position. Okay, a lot of advantages of sales careers, and I'm a big believer of them, and I've been one for a long time. But sales today, sales reps that stay in there will be consultants more and more if they're an outside salesperson. Inside will be, generating leads, handling and growth enhancements and growth of the accounts, and sometimes different services that are required. They're always the revenue generators, and therefore they are a core competency for that particular company, no matter what they're selling. These, as I mentioned, are going to be the best revenue generators for a lot of products. Human contact always is needed to close the deal. You cannot count on a proposal to close a deal unless it's in a commodity state where it's well known etc. It can be done online. There is some, a lot of things are being sold online, but in the end, you need a human contact, and someone has to at least set it up so it's so automated that it can be filled and etc. But a lot of products are going that way, and they will happen that way. But there will still be need for sales expertise when there's customization required, personalization required. We've talked about a couple of these. And the other thing about sales skills, they are very transferable. A lot of people, when they go into sales, they're not sure they like it. I'll actually show you a slide on their transferability. So the truth about sales, I taught sales at 5 companies, been taught very well. I had some great mentors. And I was very technical when I started out of an engineering background, designed hardware and stuff. So I never thought I'd be in sales because wasn't going to push. It was too pushy. I didn't want to, et cetera. It wasn't outgoing. I was kind of a little bit introverted at the time. But all of a sudden, it dawned on me that sales is about leadership. Sales is about leading people to do what's in their own best interest. And once you have that concept down, it becomes very easy to sell the right product to the right company for the right reasons. And that's the key to staying in success. And that's the key to being successful in sales and staying in it a long time. To have a good product, it's something you believe in, but find the niche. And every product has a niche that it's good at. When I've sold technology, some people were selling it to the wrong market. They didn't sell it the right way. If you find the right way to sell a product, it's very rewarding. Now, forced transitions. Things happen in every career. So the question is, where can someone go if they try sales? This is mostly for the younger people that are eventually will hear this recording. Some people worry, what if I don't like it? Where do I go then? Well, you can be proactive, and the skills you pick up if you get sales training. Most salespeople do not have enough sales training. Most salespeople get trained early, if at all, and then they don't do any more. I still go to training classes, and I go to learn new techniques and new ideas. So if you're going to be a pro at sales, you have to keep investing in yourself in training. And if someone decides they don't like it, then what do? Well, you have to transition your way out. And there are ways to do that, because you can, let's say you have an industry or product decline, you can't help that, but there's other ways that product is going to be handled. New management comes in, salespeople have experienced that, I have, and you're not on the team. They want their own players in. Major customer client leaves creates financial problems. Recessions and economic decline, I've got that one on my belt too. Fewer jobs in my field, layoffs. AI or automation impacts, who knows, but I expect them to be rather severe in some cases, and also impacting almost every way we do business. Building your network is a safe net. Seeking higher prices is a good way to comment on this, and then seeking accounts that have ongoing needs. For example, staples and food and consumer products and things like that are they have a consistent flow of goods is actually a good sales career. It's sometimes better than the technology field, where technology you have a leading product for 2 or 3 years and then you're superseded and now you're forced to make a change. One of the reasons I like recruiting was it was above the technology. So the strategy in long term is actually to get above the technology. What do I mean by that? I mean, I'm solving the business problems. I'm working on those areas, and I'm not tied to technology in recruiting. They change the products tomorrow that are in demand. I can switch my recruiting efforts to the new products. It doesn't cost me anything. I'm not stuck with a product that's getting outdated and being less competitive in the marketplace. So try to get a position above the technologies or above the part that's going to change. But sales expertise is very valuable in any management position. So let's take a little risk assessment here. If I'm in sales and I don't like my sales job, it's just not for me. It's only, I'd say 13 to 15%, according to the aptitude tests and et cetera, natural skills. Only about 15% of the people would like sales. So it's not a big part of the market. Sales skills can transition to many industries. So if you don't like that product, you can go to another product. You can go to another service. You can go to another industry. People say, well, I don't have any experience in that industry. Well, you have sales expertise and sales experience. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about how proactive career management, our approach, you can make those transitions. I've changed people's careers completely to a whole new avenues that they never thought they could do. So it is possible to go to other things that you would like and could be excited. Your communication skills can transition to many business areas, right? If you're a good manager, you can manage other operations, but you have to sell it and you have to present yourself in that light and you have to learn to market yourself better. Salespeople sometimes go over to the marketing side or the business development side. Some salespeople actually rather do the customer support options, et cetera, for customer success, et cetera. Others would go into the operations of a sales thing as opposed to the actual client interface. Some sales analytics are a big issue where you can get into. Product marketing managers are also careers I've helped people get into. Sales and sales services trade. What's interesting with all these things, most people would say, well, I don't have any background in these things. You do. You do. You have knowledge, you have awareness, you have expertise, and it's like if selling anything else. You can sell it if you present yourself properly and put together your background in a nice, focused manner. You can make these transitions. Inside sales leads, you can get management in there if you want to do that, etc. So sales expertise is a valuable skill set. Now, we're going to switch the topic now and say, let's talk about what is a proactive philosophy. I've said a lot of things like it's easy to do. I'm not saying it's easy, but I've created jobs for myself. My kids have created jobs for themselves. I can give you story after story. If you're interested, sign up for a session. I'll give you some stories about people whose careers they thought were dead, trapped, not paying. They were unemployed for a while, and we changed their career and their life. You can do it, but you have to know how. And it's not by following the traditional path. So let's talk about a proactive philosophy. Job search is a sales and marketing process. Okay. I think 95% of the people that come to me for a free session, they agree it's a sales and marketing process. But interesting enough, nobody behaves that way. Okay. So let's think about why it's a sales and marketing process. You are a product. Your resume is your proposal. It's your marketing document. Okay. As a product, you have features and benefits, collectively called marketable skills. No one really analyzes themselves as a product, and therefore they don't really present their marketable skills effectively. They chatter, they'll go on and on. They'll follow the herd. There's a herd of lemmings. Everybody follows a bunch of lemmings over the cliff, and they get failure in their job search efforts. Why? Because they haven't thought about the process. They treat it from a defensive point of view, and they don't look at themselves as a salesperson. If you're the salesperson, you need to sell your product, which is you, in every interview. Therefore, interviews are not really interviews, they're sales calls. Okay, so the interview process is a series of focused sales calls. You have to win each one. And more people talk themselves out of jobs, including salespeople. They're the worst sometimes. And I believe me, I've interviewed them for 30 years. They can be the worst because they never think about themselves as a product, and they don't think about the process as a sales process. Instead, they follow it more like it's a HR process, a Q&A, and here are the rules. Let me give you a clue. There are no rules in job search. The rule is real simple. Get in front of the right person with the right message at the right time. Period. That's the goal. And however you have to do that, you do it. I got a lot of experience to prove that true. Okay. Now, every interview is a one-on-one sales call with a specific objective. How do you structure that? How do you do that? There is no such thing as a casual interview or a token interview. They're all serious interviews. The salesperson plans to execute a structured sales call with specific goals and strategies, not just a wing it call. I'm going to go in. I saw their company. I know their products. I think I know this guy, whatever. That's a casual, that's a haphazard call. Yeah, he likes you, but he's not hiring you. The salesperson controls the interview. This is the biggest thing. Most people go into the interview playing defense. They memorize the answers to 622 questions, supposedly, and they go in there and they're scared to death, and they got to play defense, and they sit back and try to answer questions. Reality is they should be controlling the interview. Most answers in the interviews contain lists and end with questions. Techniques, sales techniques. Managing timing in the interview process. Had a person today who was trying to make his decision about pursuing an opportunity on the front end of the process because it didn't pay enough and it didn't look like it was the right thing, instead of going in there and exploring to see what was really going on. He believed the job description, which are never accurate. There's 20 myths about job search that aren't true, or they're ineffective, or they're out of date. And people follow them religiously. Everything in life goes from possibility to probability to reality. A good salesperson puts away their bias and goes out and explores opportunity and then makes an informed decision at the end of the cycle. I like to say when you get an offer, but certainly after you've interviewed with management. The rest of the issues are not important up until then. Oops, wrong button. So here's the good news. In all these years, there's a real simple fact that the most qualified person doesn't get the position. It's the person that interviews the best. I can tell you from our recruiting, we'd send out 5 candidates, different skill sets, and the one with the weakest skill set that we send in first, to set a low bar, would come out the winner because they liked that person and he interviewed the best after we prepped them. We prepped them all and they liked that person. They said, we'll train that person and get them up to speed. So you can win these jobs. It's not whether you're the most qualified. You don't have to worry about that. You have to out-interview other people. All right. Let's talk about a couple things. Proactive career management at each stage of your career has to do with setting a goal. Setting what is the right thing for my life right now, personally and professionally. So what do I want to do now? What am I qualified to do? Qualification, we can broaden that out a little bit. What am I capable of doing, even if I haven't done it? What am I aspirationally, what do I want to do, which fits the top one? And also, what do I know how to do, maybe from a hobby or from a course or whatever? All those can be marketed as your ability to do the job. Then the question is, where will I be able to do it? Targeting. And will they pay me appropriately? Those are the 4 things that we try to do to pick out optimize to make a good job decision. All right. Now, the second thing you consider is like our little, somebody ridiculous thing. We want so much experience for something, for a technology that's brand new, right? I've seen that happen. AI. Oh yeah, we want 5 and 7 years of AI experience. So it's really good luck. So the types of, you have to decide, okay, what is the type of jobs that I have a real preference for? Because you always do best at jobs you prefer. And where's the preferred environment? That can change over time. You start out sometimes with large companies, and I know most people, they kind of go to small and mid-sized companies later to control their destiny. What are the specific things I do every day, maybe? And then look at your personal priorities in your career, in your life cycle, but then also consider the marketplace factors in PLC. I might really like to go sell some Salesforce software, but Salesforce is laying off a ton of people and it's in the mature stages. And maybe that's not the best place to be right now. It was 15 years ago, 20 years ago. It's not now. Same thing is true of ERP software and some things like that, unless they're going into cloud. And who knows right now with cloud software, everybody's going to get involved with a major platform. So it's going to end up being the behemoths that run these platforms, and each one of them can control 10, 20, 30, 50, 100 companies. And that's going to mean that you need less resources in the user environment. So these are considerations that you can look at. Now, I mentioned a large company and it's could be bureaucratic. I couldn't handle this later in life, and yet I was with the federal government and I was with IBM, and then I went down into the headhunting world, which are in a smaller environment. And then I tried to go back to $1 billion company running the accounting and finance, and you know what? I failed at it. Just couldn't stand the bureaucracy and the politics of it and whatever. And it was just, it lasted a year and a half, and then I started my own businesses. But the reality is, over time, you have to decide what fits for you. If you like large companies, you like the balance of life, you like that kind of thing, it works. Whatever it is, you figure that out. If you're in I can't tell you how many people I would go to these job search fairs, and they would all talk about the same companies. I want to work at this one. You know anybody at Coke? You know anybody at Home Depot? You know anybody here? These people are not going to get in there. They're in their senior circuits or they're older or whatever. They need to be looking for good mid-sized companies. And there's tons of them in Atlanta and tons of companies where they can really contribute, enjoy, and still make a great living, et cetera. Or you could target small but funded companies. And entrepreneurial is you're a little bit involved in survival. Solopreneurs like consultants, individual consultants, coaching like I do, that you have to be comfortable with that. And that's something that if I had a choice, I'd probably have a little bit of a team. We have some now with a couple good partners, and that's a lot more fun than being by yourself. All right. Now, here's some advantages of this proactive career management. You are in charge of your career. You stay ahead of the trends. You look for growth cycles. You avoid potholes and surprises. You optimize your career path. You make moves ahead of the curve, like selling stocks properly before it drops or before something changes. You see trouble coming, or you'll see different competitive factors coming. How do you get ready for this kind of thing? You need to have your resume ready at all times. Flex resume is what we produce. You might say, what is that? We write a very unusual resume. I created this because if you think about it, resumes are all past tense biographical histories. That's your proposal. That's your marketing document. We write and help people with a forward-looking document, just like a sales process. So the traditional resume violates the sales process. And there's about 18 other things that violate the sales process. So people still follow these guidelines that are around since 1980, and they wonder why they're not getting seen. They wonder why their resume isn't helping them. They wonder what happens. And I got something else to tell you about in a second about why that's a big problem. The other thing is people aren't comfortable with interviewing. People hate interviewing. Why? Because they've never been taught to interview. They've never been shown a process on how to control, manage their interviews. Once they learn that, all of a sudden interviews are fun and they understand how to do it. That's what we teach. Build networks, they do help over and over. That's a good thing to do, and you should be networking all the time. We teach how to do that. But in the end, sometimes you have to network around to people that are strangers and get around the HR process in spots because it's jammed with 300 resumes and they're not going to see you. If you do these things of having a more supportive resume and you learn to interview, you will double or triple your odds of getting an offer. And believe it or not, the resume, which everybody thinks is the magic bullet, is 30% of your win, just like a proposal. 60% is how well you interview. And that's why if you click on our site at the end, you can go explore our best product ever. Very affordable. It should have been taught in college. It's for how to control and interview for the rest of your career. Okay. And interviewing is the gateway to a better job. It's a gateway to a better life. And it always makes a difference. The better path you can get on, the better path that follows on to. Now, let's see what this one is. Oh, yeah. So here's a reality. In job search, everybody's in sales. This happens to be a group focused on sales, so this is not a strange thing. But in IT, they don't want to be in sales. They don't like sales, but you are in sales. And you are selling yourself. And if you're not comfortable with it, you need to learn how you can get comfortable with it. But even if you don't think you want to be in sales, when you know that you're doing the right things for people, your sales is about leadership, of showing someone why you're an excellent solution to their problem. There are no rules in job search. Sorry, I don't buy it. The key is to get in front of the right person, right message, right time. Job descriptions. Here's another myth out there. One of our 20 myths. They're only half accurate. You don't even know which half. So you should be curious to go explore and not reject yourself. You are not the screener in the process. You are the salesperson. 80% of the hiring is based on the interview. So if you don't execute the best interview, you're not going to get the job, even if you have the greatest looking resume in the world. People hire people, not resumes. Where people hire based on chemistry. More important than qualifications in a lot of cases. And how do you build chemistry? You build chemistry by the interview. Okay. And that's why it'll double or triple your odds of getting an offer. So I used to always tell people about a golden rule of hiring and sales. Here's the golden rule. Worked served me my whole career. People do what's in their own best interest as they perceive it. So, simple process in interviewing. I want them to perceive that I'm the best candidate for the position. Maybe not the most qualified, but the best candidate in terms of potential, overall background, etc. And I could give you lots of examples of this, of why that works. So to summarize this thing, and then I want to do one little thing, I want to read one thing. What does the understanding of the product life cycle mean to your long-term career? Actually means everything. It's how you position yourself. It's how you continue to progress without gaps or jumps or drops or some heartbreak or financial issues. It's how do you drive the car, drive your career car, and make sure you're ahead of the curve. When it's slow and you're going pretty good, anybody can drive a car. But when you're out there driving high speed in a fast market with lots of changes, you have to be prepared and ahead of the curve so you can drive. Planning and selecting opportunities in view of your career goals, and awareness of the rapidly changing economy. A proactive plan at each stage of your career. Results, you will get better career options and opportunities. Now, I want to read one thing I thought was pretty funny. Carrie, will you send the link out to everybody on this thing so they have it in the chat there? But one of the things I read in HubSpot, it was, I don't know, 35, 40 pages. You can get their survey and everything. I grabbed parts of it. But one of the things I thought was so fun, so cute, is there's so many rules about keeping your resume short. Here's the format you have to put it in. Let's use these action verbs. Let's do this. And everybody, and LinkedIn wants everybody to look the same. All the applicant tracking systems want everybody to look the same. And yet everybody says, I want to look different. Okay, but they all follow the same thing, like a bunch of lemmings running off a cliff without thinking about it. So, and they don't even operate in the sales process. They don't even write a forward-looking resume. They write a backward-looking biographical history. Okay, so I thought it was kind of cute that this guy, what was his name here, Tanner, he said, in today's sales world, the general sales marketplace, there's a concept called the invisible decision makers. Invisible decision makers. And basically he says, to engage a range of decision makers, he recommends identifying those key players and creating dynamic proposals that not only stand out, but make the champion, right, the person that wants to hire you, make the champion look good to everyone involved. What is our proposal? It's our resume. Why would we have a short proposal? Why would we have a dull proposal? Why would we have a carbon copy template from somebody that everybody has in a proposal to look different? That's not dynamic. That's static, and it's backward, and it's wrong based on sales principles. If you want to obey HR principles, that's traditional. Now, here he says, sales materials and proposals must account for the individual decision makers and prepare the champions for internal sell. I knew that since 1980 when I started recruiting. Because behind the scenes, that person needs to identify and sell this product to all the decision makers that aren't obvious. And the particular salesperson can't figure out where they are all the time because the champion is the insulator. So if you give them a weak resume, he can't sell you well. He goes to the consensus meeting and someone else outpoints you. If the executive doesn't see you, and they don't know who you are, and he asks a question, and your champion who met you 3 weeks ago can't talk about you because he can't remember what you said, but he was really good, that doesn't fly. So now you have a new look at their resume. It's not supposed to be short, it's supposed to be complete. 3 pages of perfect number. And the reality is it needs to tell what you want to do and why you're qualified. And that will be your document that'll help you guide the interviews, get through the tracking systems, sell to people that don't meet you, allow your champion to sell you. And it exactly supports the process that we encourage and we deliver at Career Oyster since 2009. So it violates all the rules that you read on the network. I have to admit I'm a contrarian. I have to admit I'm a little disruptor. But if you're going to do a sales process in your job search market, you ought to at least see them and get a session and see what this looks like. Okay, so in that case, that's the secret for sales in general, but it's really essential in a job search process. All right, Carrie, I'm gonna take it off the screen here and we'll take
Thank
some
you, Howard.
questions.
Yeah, and we've got a few great questions here I want to jump into, and also just I know we're over time, so try to get through these as quick as we can. One question, in an interview, what's the best way to demonstrate specific skills that are relevant to the hiring manager?
Well, uh, you said in an interview or in a,
Right, yeah, in an interview, what's the best way, I'll
yeah.
put it in first person, for me to demonstrate specific skills, especially technical skills that are relevant to the hiring manager?
Yeah, I think once you know, once you want to put some depth on it. So one of the things you're going to use is a story. You're going to use some stories, or you're going to use some lists, and the goal is to keep them really short. So you want to use something where you talk about, here's a project I did, and then you give a list of the steps that you did to show some depth. You give a little bit of a list of the tools that you applied to accomplish that project. And then you would stop and ask him, does he need to hear more detail? And at that point, he may say no. On the other hand, if he says he wants more, he'll ask you, and then you can go into further detail. Most people would just go on and on about what they've done, and it'll be 5, 6, 7 minutes, and you'll lose them. I think off the top of my head, that's it. So if you have a resume that supports your stories, then it makes the answer much easier because he already has the knowledge, and the answers he'll ask you a question about that, but it won't be that detailed. They'll have the detail he needs to go forward.
Awesome, thanks, Howard. Another question that came in, how to find a good sales and marketing job at the age of 65, right? This is somebody who says, I'm capable, I'm valuable. The reality is ageism is alive and well. So any advice for those of us that are
Yep,
a little
I'm
bit
there. That's a sales problem, and you have an incredible amount of value at that point. You have a lot of experience. You're usually not. It's a very low risk hire because you're not going to go anywhere for a career. You bring a lot of value in a quick startup time. You'll probably take a little reasonable income. You're like a Mercedes Benz for $30,000, and you have to sell yourself properly and preempt and say, listen, my goal is to work another 5 to 10 years, and I want to make money and run accounts, and that's what I'm going to do. And whoever hires me is going to have a person that works independently. I'll make my numbers. I'll help with the team if you need me to. I'll mentor people, and I get along fine with the young people. I'm probably the best hire you can hire because you won't have to worry about me doing my numbers and helping you be successful.
awesome.
Okay.
Another question that came in, and I would say stay tuned on this because we're going to do some content around this, but what's the best way to optimize your LinkedIn profile or your resume for the ATS?
It's all about keywords, right? So once you learn to change your vocabulary and learn to talk in keywords, I know everybody thinks they know what keywords are. I was coaching a marketing guy right before this call today, and he didn't know what keywords were either. And so if once you use keywords, you'll realize what do recruiters put into the computer and what do and it's very few. They put in very few keywords. If you think about it, the way you search for jobs, title, industry, products, that's what the recruiter puts in. And then he's going to get a whole bunch of resumes. He doesn't put in a whole lot of details in the tracking system. I've had 4 or 5 of them, and every recruiter subjectively puts in a different search. They all get a different list of people. So when they bring up their list, the first thing they do is they look at the list and they look at the resume and they're going to give it 20 seconds. And at that point, they should be able to, before they get halfway down that first page, they should know what you want to do and why you're qualified. And if they don't, B pile, probably not to be seen. They stop looking when they get to 5 candidates, let's say, if that's the number they want to send out. And that may be at number 19. You're number 21 because you didn't have the right keywords in there and the right things to get their attention. You probably never got seen.
Well, thank you, Howard. I think the other questions you actually covered throughout the presentation. So certainly if anybody has any follow-up questions, reach out to us and we're certainly happy to help. And we'll also be putting some new content out there with some new blogs that will help answer some of these questions as well.